You are 23 years old. You have a degree. You have $60,000 in student loan debt, and you have a job offer sitting in your inbox right now. $32,000 a year, benefits pending, start date negotiable. You read it 3 times, not because you don't understand it, because you do. $32,000 a year is $2,666 a month before taxes. After federal, state, and Social Security, you're taking home somewhere around $2,100. Your student loan minimum payment is $487 a month. A one-bedroom apartment in your city, not a nice one, not a central one, starts at $1,150. That's $1,637 gone before you've bought a single meal, filled a gas tank, or turned on a light. You have $463 left for everything else. You do the math, then you do it again. The number doesn't change. And here's the part nobody told you at orientation, standing in that auditorium with the chancellor talking about investment in your future. The debt was always going to outlast the dream. The degree was sold to you as a door. Nobody mentioned what was waiting on the other side of it. So you stare at that offer letter, and somewhere underneath the exhaustion, underneath the careful budget you've already started running in your head, there was a very specific feeling. Not disappointment, something quieter than that. It's the feeling of realizing that you did everything right, and the math still doesn't work. 4 years ago, the pitch was simple. Go to college, study something practical, get the degree. The degree gets you the job. The job pays for the degree. That was the sequence. That was the contract. Millions of people signed it without reading the fine print because there wasn't supposed to be fine print. This was the default path, the responsible choice, the thing your parents, your counselors, and every piece of institutional infrastructure around you pointed at and said, "This one. Do this one." So you did. You picked the school, you filled out the FAFSA, you signed the loan documents at 18, an age at which you were not legally allowed to rent a car, but fully authorized to take on $60,000 in debt with a repayment schedule that would follow you for the next decade. You showed up, you studied, you went to the career fairs with your printed resume and your business casual blazer. You did the internship, the one that paid $12 an hour and taught you above all else how to look busy in an open-plan office. And now you have the degree, framed, if your parents had anything to say about it, proof that the contract was honored on your end. The offer letter is $32,000. You Google the average starting salary in your field. The number you find is close enough to yours that you can't even call it an outlier. This isn't bad luck. This isn't a bad employer. This is just the number, the going rate for 4 years of your life and $60,000 of debt rendered as an annual salary by the market that designed the whole system. You accept the offer. Of course you do, because the alternative is not accepting it, and that math is worse. The first paycheck arrives on a Friday. $1,047.13. Direct deposit. You screenshot it, not because you're proud, because it doesn't feel real yet. This is the number your entire academic career was working toward. This is what graduation was pointing at. You pay the rent first, then the loan, then the utilities. You buy groceries with what's left. Not the groceries you want, the groceries that make sense at $463 a month. You learn very quickly the difference between those two things. By the 3rd week of the month, you have $74 in your checking account. You are employed. You have a degree. You are, by every official metric, a success story. You don't feel like one. A coworker, a guy named Daniel, 2 years ahead of you, same role, leans over one afternoon and says something you'll think about for a long time. He says, "I keep waiting for it to feel like enough." You don't ask him if it ever does. You already know the answer. Here's what the $60,000 actually bought. It bought access, not a guarantee, access. Access to the application pile, to the interview room, to the entry-level position that requires 3 to 5 years of experience. Access to the system on the system's terms. The degree is not a skill. It is not a network. It is not a promise. It is a ticket. And like most tickets, its value depends entirely where the door leads. The door led here, $32,000, $2,100 take-home, $463 in breathing room that gets smaller every month the interest accrues. And the cruelest part, the part that doesn't make it into the brochures, is that the loan doesn't care. The loan doesn't know that the market shifted. The loan doesn't know that housing costs have increased 43% in your city since the interest rate on your debt was set. The loan doesn't take a sick day. It doesn't renegotiate when the economy contracts. It simply continues, compounding, patient, waiting. You were told this was an investment, and technically it was. You just weren't told who the return was going to. At some point, you sit down and run the real numbers. Not the monthly budget, you know that by heart now. The lifetime numbers. $60,000 in loans at 6.5% interest over 10 years. Total repayment, approximately $81,000. You will pay $21,000 in interest alone, money that goes nowhere, builds nothing, leaves no equity, earns no return. Just the cost of having borrowed the money to buy the ticket to stand at the door. Meanwhile, the median home price in your metro area is $387,000. A standard 20% down payment is $77,400. At your current savings rate, which assumes zero emergencies, zero car repairs, zero medical bills, you will have that down payment in approximately 19 years. You'll be 42. Your parents bought their first home at 27. The gap between those two numbers, 27 and 42, is not a reflection of your ambition, your discipline, or your choices. It is a structural outcome. It is what happens when the cost of entry into adulthood increases by 340% and wages increase by 18%, and an entire generation is handed the bill and told to figure it out. The degree wasn't the problem. The problem was the story built around it, the clean, frictionless narrative that said education plus effort equals stability. That equation worked once. It worked well enough, for long enough, that it became folklore. Parents believed it because it had been true for them. Institutions sold it because it justified the price, and you believed it because you were 18 and the alternative was terrifying and everyone you trusted was pointing in the same direction. The system didn't lie to you with malicious intent. It just kept selling a product long after the product stopped delivering what it promised, and you, along with several million other people your age, paid full price for something that was already depreciating when you signed the papers. That's not a failure of your generation's work ethic. That's a failure of institutional honesty. So here's what seeing the real number means. It means the $32,000 offer isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of what the market has decided your desperation is worth, and those are two completely different things. The market knows you have $487 in monthly payments. The market knows you cannot wait. The market priced the offer accordingly. It means the debt is not a personal moral failing. You didn't go into debt because you were reckless. You went into debt because you were told that was the price of a future, and you paid it because you trusted the people who were telling it. Acknowledging that clearly, without shame, without self-blame, is the only honest starting point. And it means the question worth asking is no longer, how do I pay this off faster? That question keeps you inside the math. The question worth asking is, why does entry into a stable life now cost a decade of debt? Why did the infrastructure that absorbed this risk for an entire previous generation quietly transfer it, all of it, onto the people who could least afford to carry it? You did the math. You've been doing it every month since the first paycheck. Now it's time to ask who designed the equation. Thank you for watching Priced Out. Subscribe to see more Priced Out videos.